I just want to do something that I will never do again. Thanks, Mom and Dad. What is that? They replied, confused. I spat on the floor and walked off with all the anger and remorse. And those would be the last words I ever spoke with them. The doctor's office. Ugh. The air was thick with antiseptic and the kind of forced cheerfulness that only medical professionals can muster when delivering bad news. The beige walls seemed to close in, the generic landscape art mocking my increasingly bleak outlook. So, Ava, Dr. Thompson began, his voice measured and devoid of any actual warmth. Like I was a particularly interesting lab specimen. The test came back, I already knew. I'd seen the pitying glances, the hushed conversations outside the exam room. Hell, I'd Googled my symptoms. You know you're in trouble when WebMD starts suggesting end-of-life care. It's not good, he continued, stating the obvious. You have a rare form of, well, let's just say it's aggressive. He launched into a detailed explanation involving medical jargon and percentages, but my brain had already checked out. All I heard was life-threatening and limited options. Surgery is possible, he said finally, a flicker of something that might have been sympathy in his eyes. But it's expensive, very expensive, and there are no guarantees. Expensive, of course. Everything always came down to money, didn't it? I knew what I had to do. I had to talk to Mom and Dad. Our relationship was complicated. They weren't exactly the hug and kiss type. Emotionally distant would be an understatement. But they were my asterisk parents, and I desperately wanted to believe that, deep down, they cared. They were frugal, almost to a fault, always clipping coupons, driving ancient cars, and lecturing me about the importance of saving every penny. I always assumed it was because they were struggling, that we were just broke. Now facing a death sentence, I clung to the hope that they'd find a way, that they'd pull out a secret stash, mortgage the house, asterisk something asterisk. I pictured their reaction, the tears, the worried frowns, the promises to do everything they could. They were good asterisk, at looking concerned. Experts, really. So well done. It has me convinced I can do this with them. I'd always been the responsible one, the dutiful daughter. I'd followed their rules, respected their wishes, and never asked for much. Now, for the first time, I needed something from them. Something huge. Something life or death. And I just had a bad feeling about what was going to happen. The gut feeling that I have has almost always been right. And I have had very few times where those feelings were wrong. I am a bit nervous and I have no idea what is going to happen with what I need. But let's hope for the best and make sure that everything goes smooth. This was going to test the bonds of family, and I was terrified of what I would do. A rebirth was always coming. My childhood home, a perfectly preserved time capsule of beige and floral wallpaper. Sterile, cold, soulless. It always felt more like a museum than a home. A place where emotions were repressed and spontaneity was frowned upon. Mom and Dad were waiting for me in the living room, their faces etched with carefully rehearsed concern. Mom was dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, and Dad was pacing back and forth, his brow furrowed. "Oh, Ava, darling," Mom said, her voice trembling. "We're so sorry, so sorry." Dad stopped pacing and wrung his hands. "We just don't know what to do, sweetheart. We wish there was something we could do. You are our child." I took a deep breath, trying to control my racing heart. The doctor said surgery is an option. It's expensive, but it's my best chance. Mom's face crumpled. "Oh, honey, you know we would do anything for you, but we just don't have that kind of money." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice rising in panic. "You've always been so careful with money." I thought. Dad shook his head. His eyes filled with what I thought was genuine despair. "We've had some setbacks, Ava. Investments that didn't work out. The market. We're barely scraping by as is," Mom chimed in, her voice cracking with emotion. "We've been putting on a brave face for you, darling. We can't keep that up." It was a performance, a meticulously crafted piece of theater. They were playing their roles perfectly, hitting all the right notes of sadness and helplessness. I stared at them, my hope dwindling with each passing second. But what am I supposed to do? Just die? They both started sobbing, their tears seemingly genuine, but something felt off. Something didn't add up. "We wish there was another way, sweetheart," Dad said, his voice choked with emotion. I would kill myself before that point. "We're the best parents, always and always," Mom responded while crying. "We love you so much," Mom sobbed. "But we just don't have it. Why don't you see? You're making it worse." I stared at them, my hope fading, the cold reality of their betrayal seeping into my bones. They were choosing money over my life. I said, "I just want to do something that I will never do again. Thanks, Mom and Dad." "What is that?" They replied, confused. I spat on the floor and walked off with all the anger and remorse. And those would be the last words I ever spoke with them. This was it, the point of no return. The moment I realized that my parents didn't love me, and it has hurt in ways that I never could imagine. I will come back and do all that is needed. I am not finished with this, not even close. But for now, let's see what I can do. What was about to happen, no one could imagine. My bedroom, once a sanctuary, now a prison. The floral wallpaper, which I used to find comforting, now seemed to mock me with its cheerful banality. The sunlight streaming through the window felt like a personal insult, a reminder of the vibrant life I was losing. I spent most of my days confined to my bed, my body slowly but surely betraying me. The pain was constant, a dull ache that throbbed through my bones. The medication helped, but it also left me feeling groggy and disconnected, as if I were watching my life unfold from behind a thick pane of glass. The visits from Mom and Dad became less frequent, shorter, and increasingly awkward. They'd sit at the edge of the bed, their faces carefully composed, offering platitudes and empty promises. "You're so strong, Ava," Mom would say, her voice strained. "We know you'll get through this." Dad would nod in agreement. "Just stay positive, sweetheart. That's half the battle." Easy for them to say. They weren't the ones with tumors eating them from the inside out. After they'd leave, the silence would feel even more deafening. The apartment became a ghost town. They, however, had been busy. New clothes, dinner reservations, even small vacations. You would never know what a mess I was in. They would act as if nothing ever happened. I started to feel the change inside me. The sweet little girl. She was going to be gone soon. All that was going to be left was a shell of a person. My friend told me about the time when she was being cheated on, and she told me that her change only came when she fully accepted that her partner was never hers, and that her actions after would have been something that she never regretted. I am going to make them pay. They will suffer what I am suffering. They made this deal with the devil, and I will be there to collect, and I will never show mercy. I have made a deal with the devil, and the rebirth has now began. The last night, I could feel it in my bones, a bone-deep certainty that the end was near. My breath came in ragged gasps, my body racked with pain. The darkness was closing in, pulling me towards the inevitable. Mom and Dad were in the next room, talking in hushed voices. I strained to hear them, my senses heightened by the proximity of death. "It's almost over," Mom whispered, her voice devoid of emotion. "Good," Dad replied. "The sooner it's done, the sooner we can move on." My blood ran cold. What were they talking about? "I still feel a little guilty," Mom said, her voice barely audible. "She's our daughter after all." "I would like to state in this will that I want 0 of my money to go to that child," Father snapped. "Are you done with that form yet?" "We're doing what's best," Dad said. "We can't waste it on her. It's our money. We earned it. We worked hard for it." I know, Mom replied. They paused, their voices dropping even lower. I strained to hear them, my heart pounding in my chest. "Did you transfer the money to the offshore account?" Dad asked. "Yes," Mom said. "And I put the properties under her name, but it has been moved under our account. She is now going to die, and all of it will come back to us, and all those years of effort were all for naught." "Good," Dad said, his voice hardening. "We can't risk losing it. Not after all these years." A wave of fury washed over me, so intense it almost stopped my heart. They had money. Millions, hidden away in secret accounts, protected by layers of legal loopholes. And they had chosen to let me die rather than spend it on saving my life. We can't risk losing it, not after all these years. I thought of my mother, her face etched with that fake smile, the one she used when she lied. They were saving it for themselves, for their vacations, their fancy cars, their comfortable retirement. And I was just a burden, an inconvenience, an obstacle to their happiness. Tears streamed down my face, a mixture of grief and rage. I had wasted my life trying to please them, trying to earn their love. And in the end, all I was to them was a financial liability. The rage kept building, a fire that scorched my soul. It pushed me to the edge. I can't keep this going and continue doing this. I had to find a way to get revenge. As the cold of death surrounded me, an idea formed in my mind. I should have taken what was rightfully mine. And in the heat of that fury, I passed. But I will return. I will return and ensure that I collect. And this time, there will be no mercy. The rebirth was coming, and the time of reckoning was finally here. I cannot say what would happen, as the cycle of revenge that was about to start was set into motion, and the world that they once knew would be consumed by ash. But the world can get to see the consequences of one's own actions. I hope that this has been as eye-opening for you as this has been for me. The story has only just begun. My head was pounding. My throat was raw. And why was my body so alive? I blinked, struggling to focus. Where was I? White walls blurred into a vague shape, a floral comforter I hadn't seen in years. Smelled? More like vaguely remembered. I sat up, my heart hammering in my chest. My apartment. My old apartment. The one I'd moved out of to be closer to mom and dad. The one filled with sunlight and a vague sense of, hope. It had been years since I'd last thought of how much I missed this place. I scrambled out of bed, my legs shaky but functional. I ran to the calendar hanging on the wall. August 14th, 2024. 2024? That couldn't be right. I remembered dying, the pain, the rage, the crushing disappointment. It was all so vivid, too vivid to be a dream. Then, I found it. The news article I'd bookmarked, the first sign, the first symptom, the first domino to fall. Everything in my stomach plummeted. My diagnosis. It wasn't until exactly 1 year later. I ran to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I gasped. I was healthy. My skin glowed, my eyes sparkled, my hair shone. There was no lingering hospital smell, only a memory of what it used to be. It was some sort of crazy, some sort of miracle. Somehow, I'd been given a second chance. I am going to make all of this time count. A wave of dizziness hit me, and I stumbled back, collapsing against the sink. I knew exactly what had to be done. A plan started to form in my mind, and it will all be done for the better. My first thought was to see what the date was. It seemed as if that was what should be taken care of now. This wasn't a gift, it was an opportunity. It's my rebirth that I have been waiting for. I had to take what was rightfully mine. I had to protect myself. I had to make sure that what was happening would be something I'll be able to sleep with. There would be no begging this time. There would be no suffering in silence. And there would sure as hell be no trusting mom and dad. The sweet little girl was gone, replaced by a steely resolve, a burning determination. I will never be the same, and I'll make sure that they won't either. This was a war, and I was going to win. I know I must act quickly to ensure that they do not end up messing everything up. It's what must be done. Time to be smart, I muttered to myself, my voice hard and unfamiliar. And make sure this never happens again. Time to bring back what's mine, I shouted in the room. And that must be done. I still need to collect. I need to make them realize I will not let my hate go to waste. It's all worth it, and they will see the truth. Let's get started with my revenge. From this, the new age has now begun. Okay, Operation Take Back What's Mine was officially underway. Step 1, acting the part. I needed to convince mom and dad that nothing had changed, that I was still their dutiful, obedient daughter. It was going to be a challenge. The rage was still simmering beneath the surface, threatening to erupt at any moment. but I had to keep it in check. I had to play the long game. I called them, forcing a cheerful tone into my voice. Hi, Mom, just wanted to see how you guys are doing. Oh, Ava, darling, she gushed, her voice sickeningly sweet. It's so good to hear from you. We were just thinking about you. Yeah, right. Like they were capable of actual thought. We made small talk about the weather, their garden, the latest episode of their favorite TV show. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was acting in some twisted family drama. So, are you still working at that accounting firm? Dad asked, his voice laced with a subtle hint of disapproval. Yes, but I also want to learn more about your business endeavors, I replied. Oh, darling, you know we don't want to do this. It's all too complicated for you. We would love to hear what is going on, Mom, I replied, as the acting was slowly starting to kill me from the inside. Don't you worry your pretty little head about that, sweetheart, Mom said. Just focus on your job and let us handle the finances. Don't you trust me? I said, as if they knew nothing. We trust you, Father said with a shout. Translation, we don't trust you with our money. That was all I needed. I spent the next few weeks becoming the best daughter that they could ever ask for. I helped her with her gardening. All the while, I was sneakily taking pictures of all her notes. She didn't even recognize that. They never expect people they trust to stab them in the back. And this time, it was going to be me. Every now and then, I would be sure to let things slip, to make them get angry and have them start talking so that I can remember that what I truly want. This revenge is what has kept me going. I can get to have the closure that I need. It was exhausting, but it was worth it. Every forced smile, every empty compliment, every carefully crafted lie was bringing me closer to my goal. I am taking full control of the situation. I will be winning this time. I will become a master manipulator. The information was slowly trickling in. I had passwords, account numbers, names, locations. It was all coming together. I finally collected enough money to ensure I could go to the offshore bank. This plan was so that what they could never reach the documents, all that I was able to get, would never be tracked down. The machine was now starting. They will soon see. This plan can finally go through. I can taste the victory. Now I am going to ensure that I bring the hammer down. As such, this is my rebirth story, and I do not care for forgiveness. Time to move. Operation Payback was entering its most delicate phase, looting the Lancaster coffers. I started with the bank accounts. Armed with the passwords Mom had so carelessly jotted down on her grocery lists, I walked into First National Bank like I owned the place, which technically I kind of did. I'd like to make a withdrawal, I told the teller, flashing a disarming smile. A rather large one. The teller, a middle-aged woman, with a name tag that read Brenda, raised an eyebrow. How large, exactly? Let's just say it involves a comma and a few zeros, I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. Brenda disappeared into the back room, returning moments later with a nervous-looking man in a suit. The account manager. Miss Lancaster, he said, his voice oily smooth. Is there anything wrong? Not at all, I replied, my smile widening. I'm simply reallocating some assets, diversifying my portfolio. He didn't look convinced. And how much will you be withdrawing today? I named a sum that would make most people's jaws drop. His did. I'm afraid we'll need to verify this with your parents, he said, his hand hovering over the phone. This was where Amelia Stone came in, my lawyer, my confidant, and the only person who knew the full extent of my plan. She'd prepped me for this scenario, arming me with a power of attorney and a cease and desist order. I pulled out the documents and slid them across the desk. I think you'll find these are in order, I said, my voice firm. Any attempt to contact my parents will be met with legal action. His eyes widened as he scanned the documents. He swallowed hard, then nodded. Very well, Miss Lancaster. I'll process your request immediately. The offshore accounts were trickier. They involved international wire transfers, encrypted emails, and a whole lot of paperwork. Thankfully, Amelia had connections. She put me in touch with a discreet financial advisor who specialized in asset protection. Let's just say with my future rebirth, he was very understanding. The real estate was the most satisfying. I put all the properties on the market, selling them for a fraction of their value to eager developers who were practically salivating at the prospect of a quick profit. It was reckless, irresponsible, and utterly delicious. With each transaction, I felt a surge of power. I was taking back control, rewriting my own narrative. I was no longer a victim. I was a force to be reckoned with. I could almost hear Mom and Dad screaming as their empire crumbled before their eyes. Almost. It'll be a sight to behold. Now, with the ball fully in my court, there were never any issues with what was going on with me. I was on top of the world, and my parents' lives were about to be changed forever. And after that, my revenge can start. They have wronged me, and now it is time to fully pay the debt. The time for reckoning has now fully began. The Lancaster Mansion, the scene of so many carefully constructed lies, so much repressed emotion, and so much beige. Now it was about to become the epicenter of a full-blown meltdown. I imagined it unfolding like a scene from a bad sitcom. Mom, meticulously manicured and impeccably dressed, discovering that her credit card was declined at Bloomingdale's. Dad pacing frantically in his study, realizing that his stock portfolio had mysteriously vanished. They would start with denial, of course, blaming the banks, the brokers, the government. Conspiracy theories would be muttered, accusations would be hurled. Then would come the panic, frantic phone calls, desperate meetings, and frantic calls to the shady accountant. And finally, the realization that they'd been outsmarted, that their precious money was gone, all gone. "Where is it coming from? What will we do?" screamed Dad as he was screaming to Mom on the phone. "We will have to file for bankruptcy at this point." "Where is Ava?" "Oh, how I wish I can put my hands around that little girl," Mom shrieked. "I want to kill her myself for what she has done." I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the cold indifference in their eyes as they told me they couldn't afford to save my life. And the guilt evaporated and made everything worthwhile. The phone call came sooner than I expected. "Ava!" Mom shrieked, her voice a banshee wail. "What have you done? What have you done?" I feigned innocence, a skill I was rapidly perfecting. "What do you mean, Mom? What's wrong?" "The money, it's gone, all of it," she wailed. "The accounts, the properties, it's all been liquidated." "Liquidated?" I asked, trying to sound surprised. "But how?" "Don't play dumb with me, young lady," she snapped. "We know it was you. You're trying to steal our money." I sighed, a perfectly rehearsed act of exasperation. "Mom, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that? What purpose would I have?" She started raving about fraud and lawsuits and calling the police. I simply let her rant, knowing that any attempt to explain would be futile. Let the meltdown commence. The money was gone, the power has shifted, and the reckoning was only just beginning. And they knew that I can get away with all of it. The game has now begun for real. Let's watch everything to come. The popcorn is ready, and it is time for the movie. This is my rebirth. But the fun had just begun. There were more things in store that I wanted to see. The story was only going to keep progressing from this point. And there was simply so much more to the plan that I needed to execute. And to have everything go as smoothly as possible, it was what had to happen. I can almost taste the sweet victory. And we'll never let it go. With that, the real action can start. And the rebirth will truly take full form. Now for me to sit back and let the pieces fall where they may. They will all be in shock. That I guarantee. Finally, this was getting somewhere. First stop, the doctor. Armed with a small chunk of her parents' millions, a new insurance policy, and Amelia Stone breathing down their necks, there was no more to do. "I want to schedule it as soon as possible," I stated. "They told me we can work on that." I was now calling the shots, now for a life that I would never have imagined. The future has never looked more bright. It was finally going to happen. The next thing on my list was ensuring that I could fully cut ties, as well as to make sure that I never have to contact them again. All those years of contact were not worth the effort. And with the support of Amelia Stone, it can finally come true. I had never met anyone who had more belief and hope. So now, I can finally say that all that support from the world has now made me what I am. And without the support, then I will not be where I am today. Now, with that, I went back to my house and started packing everything. There was a feeling in the air, like the world has made me who I was, as well as to come back and do something I wanted to do. Maybe without that anger, I wouldn't even be where I am. As I boarded the plane, I smiled as I sat on my seat, knowing everything was going to change. And if that pain hadn't come, I wouldn't be on the journey of a lifetime. This plane can take me away. It can bring me to a new spot, to what that all can come true. And this was going to be the fresh start that I have always sought. I simply have one goal to think about: to ensure that my parents would be taught what they did. The punishment needs to fit the crime, and what they had done was not something that I was simply going to forgive, but with all of my heart I wanted to. It was what my purpose may truly be, was simply that I wanted it to hurt. I wanted them to know what it felt like to be abandoned, and I am going to show them that love is simply never worth the effort, that maybe the family blood would not mean anything to the people I hate more than anything. As the world can finally be reborn, I can finally take what I have learned and turn it back to them. All will be as it should, and that is that there will be happiness with only one person. And that would be me. This journey that I can take is going to be so awesome. To find happiness as what I have always sought after. With that, I smiled, turned on my music, and took a small nap. Time to have everything go well. Okay, I was settled. New apartment, new city, new life. The surgery had been a success. I felt good. Actually, good. It was as if the weight of everything was starting to fade away. My parents were the next target. I needed to start what I had done. I opened my laptop, a subtle smile forming on my face. Time to start making what has happened known to the world. They're so focused on running to be the next big shot. They're always looking down their nose at anyone beneath them, as if nothing would ever make them come down from their tower. It would be what I did from now. Let's see what I can do. I need something to bring them to their knees, I thought. My parents were so close to their family, the only thing that would make them crumble was to see the entire world that has meant so much crumble. So let's target that first. I started typing, slowly crafting. With each word, that subtle smile grew wider. They were always so confident. It would be so fun to watch their world burn. They would be as miserable as they had made me, and what they wanted and yearned for, that would be something they would never be able to touch. And I would be watching them fall. I'd spent hours on it, weaving a tale of greed, betrayal, and indifference. A story that would resonate with the world. It was not simply all the evil things they did. It was how it made the person who I am, and they would need to know that. What I will do to my parents, I am never going to turn back from. With this plan, I will take back all that was lost. They think that what I will do is something that what they have foreseen. I am going to come back and make that pain. They're simply unable to comprehend that there are always things in this world. And with enough money, it is all possible. I can't stop grinning. This will be the highlight of my life. They would reap the rewards of their choices. I am simply going to show the world what is going to happen, so people will know what actions can lead to. And now I have been given time to make a difference. I press the post button. Let the games begin. Let's watch the people crumble. They have made me into what I am today. I wonder, will they forgive me? Probably never. And the next thing was to relax and be prepared for what was going to happen. Let all the dominoes fall. It was going to be a sight to behold. All that was bad was slowly starting to wash away. I need to ensure the process is slow and gradual. That's the only way to do it. They are the new game, and what they can do to stop me. I was smiling and waiting. A new dawn was coming, and I could finally taste it. What am I going to do? Now, simply the next thing for me to do is to watch. I let the machine cook. Let's see how high things can rise. It's going to be amazing. The rebirth will all be worth it. Now let's see what has always been cooking, I thought. Let it stew, and let's watch what happens. It was simply going to be a blast. And now what has been done in the dark can start to make it to the light. As now, they knew what was happening. The heat that has always been needed and always has been there has never came. My life has been forever changed. All thanks to them, I can truly take them down, and they would never know what has happened. And their empire was burning, and all they could do was stand and watch what was happening. They have started the game. I was simply ending it. Ha, good. With a sigh, it was time to relax. I took some deep breaths and finally had that relief that I was always asking for. Maybe all of this has been a blessing in disguise, as there was simply so much happiness to be had. It was a crazy thought, but I can make sure that things can be as what they should be. The new age was finally coming, and it was something that all will appreciate. What has been done is now at hand, with all that has been said and with all that has been done. It was time to go out there. The new world awaits, but for now, I can sleep in peace and never turn back, ever again. All of this has made me the angel that has turned into the devil to do all of the evil. Their judgment was now simply at hand. The internet is what has helped here. The whispers, the rumblings, and they finally hit with the assistance of the world. Local businessman caught with overseas accounts has committed tax fraud, I said, chuckling to myself. The news was spreading like wildfire. It would be an experience that nobody would forget. I could have taken it so many other ways. The news websites started with the headlines. Twitter was going nuts with the hashtag #LancasterScam trending worldwide. Did you see? My neighbor mentioned. It is crazy what is all happening with that mess, and all those millions of dollars being scammed is totally uncalled for. It did cause a spike of what the government was going to do. It had led to my parents being put on house arrest. The worst part was the reputation, the only thing that they seemed to actually have cared about. What if they had put that much emotion into me? How would that feel? I'm going to ensure I pay them back, I simply said to the world. The show must move on. The story had only just begun for Ava. But now, this was what I was waiting to hear. It's time for the next stage. The fun is about to begin, and I simply must do my job, said in a small voice. The money was going to be all gone. Their house was now a shell, all because of me, all because of what they put up. It was finally time for their downfall, and the world would get to see. I could only imagine what happening in that house, all of the fights that were going around, the anger and the shame. It was coming down, all because of what I thought. This was going to be as great as I have ever thought that it could be. But what was that I needed to do? Now it was simply show. And what had taken down, I need to find a way to build myself back up, with everything to change and make things better, to never be that child that I had always used to. There simply was a new part, and all will know. The people that do you wrong will know. There is always going to be karma. In this world, the rebirth can simply be done. As now it was. The new dawn was coming. As I started to realize and I can finally see what is going on, I can make things work and now move on. It was only a matter of time for what comes next. All I can do is wait and be sure that it's all going as planned. And they cannot escape? The call surprised me. I almost hung up, but a flicker of morbid curiosity kept me on the line. Ava, please, my mother's voice croaked, barely audible above the static. We need your help. I bit back a laugh. Help? Funny, that's not what you said when I needed your asterisk help. We've lost everything, she wailed. The government seized our assets. The accounts are frozen. We have nowhere to go. I hope everything can turn back, or at least return to our original standings. We can make the same mistakes again. Oh, I would truly love to do that, and that is something that what I need to live with. But I see what that comes with, I thought in my head. But what I said is that it is time for this plan to work to action. Really? That's a shame, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. So all that talk about financial security and responsible investing, turns out it was all a lie? Don't you care about your own parents? She began, We're your mother and father. How can you do this to us? I paused, letting the silence hang in the air. You didn't have any money, remember? That surgery was so expensive and it couldn't be managed, as what has been going on, and what was said that it was never true, and you simply couldn't do anything to fix it. Why didn't you read the fine print of my life? The line went dead. A part of me, a tiny, vestigial remnant of my former self, felt a pang of guilt. But I quickly squashed it. They had made their choice. They had sealed their fate, and I had no intention of throwing them a lifeline. The Lancaster estate was a depressing sight. The once manicured gardens were overgrown with weeds. The once gleaming mansion now looked dilapidated and forlorn, as if everything was for naught. I could see them waiting for me by the gate, their faces gaunt and desperate. They must have had gotten the address from my office. I just smiled. You got what you deserved, I thought. As I walked towards them, they started to cry. The love was a lie. They knew that all they sought was nothing more than simply all of that pain for themselves. If only they had looked at me as more than simply what I was. And then there was more that comes from that. Maybe not. Maybe simply, maybe nothing that I can take or hold or move. And this was the last goodbye, as there was no chance for our world to get more love. The new life can truly begin, but I would never ever truly get to experience what they thought, and that was all that mattered. If only there was something I can do, that what was not. With this life, there was now nothing I can do. But the fun would not change, as a new heart of joy, as never had ever happened. What was simply so new, they will all be as what you have always seed. There will never be peace for me because of all of what has been said. I needed to walk, I needed to move, and that was what needed to always be. The new life can be for me, and no matter the loss, to take and to take care. It was something new for me. It did not need to be anything to think. As such, the new game, the new light, has had only just begun. There was that power, that energy. They have made me, and nothing can ever change that. I will remember, and I will move on.